We live? All right, people, we're live. Looks like we started on time. So much so that my people are still scrambling around. Genesis is running out the room. We're here. Live and in living color. You can do what you want. And remember that show? Great show. In living color. Let's take a trip. Anyway, I don't know. That was Heavy D. Heavy D's gone, right? He's with the Lord. He's rapping in heaven right now. Heavy D. I trust he made the city. Anyway, what's going on, people? Sure, Heavy D's made the city. Of course. He's up there doing a concert right now. I'm sure the Lord is a Heavy D fan. I am. So we're here, Q&A. And in a sense, this is going to be like not our last forever Q&A show, but we kind of decided we're going to do this kind of in seasons. So this is season 1, episode 12, 13. Oh, I don't know. Can we end on 13? I don't believe in luck. Sure. Season 1, episode 13. Here we go. So let's hear it. Let's jump into it. Let's give as much time as we possibly can to answer as many questions as we can. And I'm excited about it here in this year of Canaan 2019. And we really have been talking about Canaan. It's been a really great, exciting time here at World Overcomers. And whether you're tuning and live streaming, or whether you're ever coming into the doors, it's a great time to be here. It's a great time to be alive. Let's jump into it. Patriots somehow are in the Super Bowl again. I don't know how that is. I absolutely did not expect them to be in the Super Bowl again. I almost don't even know how to feel about it. I do live here in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, a place where God lives. Born in Philly, raised in Boston. If you were ever to tell me that the Patriots would have a dynasty when I was in high school in the 80s, the Patriots were a horrible team. So for all of you people that just hate on the Patriots just out of GP, just out of the general principle of them, you tired of them being in the Super Bowl, I understand that. I feel that, haters. I mean, I feel that, everybody. I totally do. Let me just say that for someone who remembers when the Patriots could never make the playoffs, I used to cheer for the Dallas Cowboys when I lived in Boston because I liked the Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith teams. I liked the Tony Dorsett, Roger Staubach teams because the Patriots never made the playoffs. You basically had to have another team that you liked because the Patriots never made the playoffs. I liked the Washington Redskins when they had Doug Williams, black quarterback. I liked Warren Moon. I liked the Oilers, I mean, you just had to have other people that you liked because the Patriots never made the playoffs. So for all of you that are just like the Patriots, maybe in your lifetime, the Patriots have always been winning, but in my lifetime, for most of my lifetime, they were not good. They were losers. They were horrible. We made the Super Bowl in '85. We played against the Chicago Bears, Walter Payton. We had a T-shirt, "Bury the Bears." We got killed. It wasn't even Tony Eason and Steve Grogan we couldn't. I don't even know if we scored a touchdown in that game. We got annihilated. Then Parcells came in and they changed the logo to the thing and Drew Bledsoe and we made another Super Bowl. We would play against Green Bay. I think we got beat again really bad. And so my point is sorry. I'm so sorry. But, think about the worst franchise in football you can ever think of in the last 25 years. Who? The Cleveland Browns? Imagine if all of a sudden the Cleveland Browns turned into a football powerhouse that went to 9 Super Bowls in 18 years. You might be sick of it, but Browns fans would be like, no, we're the Yankees of football. And that's how I feel as a Patriots fan. For all of you that are just kind of like, I'm sick of the Patriots being in there, I understand that. But just understand from my perspective, we were horrible. We sucked. We were the losers of the league. We were the worst. We were the worst team in the league for a long, long time. we were a joke. We were Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were a joke. And now for some reason, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, we're in a third Super Bowl 3 years in a row. So anyway, let's get to the questions.
All right, so Pastor Andy, the ladies want to know, can we get First Lady LaShawn Thompson on a live for the women?
You know, I think that I would love for LaShawn to jump on here with me. You know, people have to understand, you know, my wife's a very, very busy person between, you know, her children who are getting older but still require a certain amount of attention. Women's ministry, her Projects of Hope organization, which is significant. Now she's really taking over, she's been doing this international missions in Kenya for the last 5 years, but now she's taking over really our inner city missions department, person that we had hired to do it, really great woman, and who had been named Ashley, who had been doing it with us for years and years and years, resigned and has gone on to do some other things. And so we've turned over the inner city care ministry of World Overcomers, which is something that we started in the determination to really care for people and show love to people that may not necessarily go to the church, to show the love of God, to let our light so shine so that men will see God in us and give God glory. They may not agree with us, but they'll respect us as a result of the connect. That's a huge area of our ministry. We're trying to get almost every person in the church to volunteer in care, every volunteer to be a part of the care. So First Lady's recently become over that now. And so she just has a lot. She's got a lot going on. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, well, I want to have a counseling session with you and First Lady. And I'm just like, getting a counseling session with me is a lot. Getting a counseling session with me and LaShawn together, tough. That's challenging. And but I certainly will honor that request, and I certainly will try to get her in the new season of Third Degree. I will definitely try to get her on here and get her to, you know, throw her some of her wisdom and counsel and advice out there to you. I mean, be careful what you ask for, because LaShawn is a grown woman, and she's not a child, and she has escaped whatever. I mean, she's such an inspirational African-American woman to me. She's escaped poverty, molestation, abandonment, all of it. You name it, she's overcome it. And so she's very inspirational. At the same time, if you've ever been around a person like that, they don't really brook a lot of nonsense. You don't have a lot of excuses. She's been through about the worst stuff that an African-American woman can have gone through, and has come out on the other side very successful. So, you know, you ladies, if you've ever been around her, she's gonna, if you think I'm telling you truth, she is gonna tell you some truth. And but most definitely, I will pass along. I hope she's watching this show. She's doing her hair today or something. She's got so much stuff planned. And all the things that she's doing, and she's trying to get ready for Sunday and all of her plans in her house and all the stuff that she's doing. But I certainly will pass your request along to her, see if she will grace us with her presence here on the Third Degree, Season 2.
All right. Does the size of a church determine if a pastor is truly called?
I think it's unfair to talk about the size of the church. I think it has to do with the percentage of the impact. I think I've said this on this show before. You know, I've got a guy that I'm pretty cool with named Sam Segundo, who's got a pretty poppin' church in Texas. And the town he's in is not the biggest town in Texas. He's got a poppin' church in Texas. And is his church as big as mine in number? No, but when it comes to the percentage of the people in the town that go into his church, he's bigger than me. So I don't know if it's not fair to judge people just by numbers. I think there's a lot of factors that have to do with the numbers. Even if you are judging the numbers, if you're judging it purely off of a numerical perspective, I don't know if you're getting an accurate picture of really the size of someone's ministry and the impact of their ministry. I also think that there are guys who God is using very powerfully in the world and in the body and in the nation and internationally. Their local church may not be as reflective of their impact on the nation. Let's take someone like one of the guys that's over me, that's a part of my leadership presbytery, a guy I have great confidence in named Dr. Mark Sharona. Dr. Mark Sharona has a very powerful ministry. It's not necessarily he doesn't have thousands of people to go to his church. He's got a pretty serious, no joke, church there in Florida, but I don't know if it will be classified as a mega church, but that does not limit the amount of his impact. He has a voice in the body that is significant. Some of the greatest men of God weren't even necessarily pastors. Kenneth Hagin wasn't a pastor. Oral Roberts wasn't a pastor. So I think sometimes we, especially right now, since it's the day of the local church, we have a way of kind of judging people by their church or the size thereof, and I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to judge it. There are men of God who give me counsel. Of the three guys that are over me, that give me apostolic or organizational ministerial oversight, of those three guys, my church is quote unquote bigger than their churches, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm bigger than them or that I don't need to hear something from them. No, in no uncertain terms. I think the question was, does it dictate whether or not someone is called or not? And I think that that's a good question. I think that the answer to that is a lot bigger than just how many people are coming. I think that there are people who are in the ministry who were prophesied into the ministry either by people that they love or people that love them. I don't know if you could really judge that as really a word from God. I know that we've lived in a world and in a time, especially within the African American church, where men weren't really at church. And so if you were a black man in church, they almost assumed that, you're a pastor. I think there were people that were called into the ministry by people who just were like, oh, wow, you're a guy at church and you love God and there's a call on your life. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that there wasn't a call in their life, but I think that there are people who are involved in the ministry. And even if they're in the ministry, they may not necessarily be called to be a senior pastor. I think everybody has a tendency today, since it is the day of the local church, to define themselves by whether or not they're a senior pastor or not. And I think there's plenty of guys that may be called, and plenty of men and women that may be called into the ministry full time and may not necessarily be called to pastoral ministry. And there's a great deal of ministry to be done. Missions is significant. Counseling is significant. Administration is significant. And even if you are called to be a pastor, that doesn't necessarily mean you're called to be a senior pastor. So hopefully I answered the question.
All right. What advice do you have for single parents wanting to start dating again?
I think that my answer to single parents about dating is my answer to everybody about dating. I think you do have a little bit of a different nuance because you do have children. And I think you do definitely want to protect your children from inconsistencies. Children need a certain amount of consistency. Children need a certain amount of scheduling. Children need consistent growth and consistent scheduling for them to develop and become everything that they need to be and are supposed to be and are called to be. Children need a bedtime. Children need a nap time. Children need a food time. Children need a reading time. Children need an education time. Children need things that are predictable. And a guy you're dating or a woman that you're dating is an unpredictability. It's an inconsistency. And I wouldn't really introduce my children to someone that I was dating unless they're going to be permanent. If all of a sudden I feel like, wow, this is about to be permanent. This guy's asked me to marry him, or I think I'm going to marry this woman. I really do think this is God. I really do think maybe then I would sit with my children down, sit my kids down and say, listen, I've met someone else, and he's a great guy. He owns his own, car dealership, or he owns his own landscaping business, or he works for the state. Lord, help everybody in government that's open the government. This government shut down, we rebuke it in the name of Jesus. He works for the government. He's a cop. He's a firefighter. He's a baker. She's an administrative assistant at whatever. I think introducing your children to someone is very different than that. To me is where it's different. When it comes to anything else, all the other rules apply. You can buy my book, Real Love. You can buy my book, Handle with Care, and I give all kinds of ideas and tips on dating, especially if you're single or divorced. I think that if you're divorced or a single parent, then you need to also be very aware that you are breaking your patterns. You don't want to end up with someone just like your ex-husband or your ex-wife, because that's why you're not with them. Why would you? It's amazing to me how there are women who have children, different fathers, and guys too, who have children from different women. That means that you did this more than one time. You picked wrong more than once. That means you have a pattern, and you need to examine that pattern and break that pattern so that you can go in another direction. You need to be with a man who's like, yeah, I'm not trying to have a child with you when we're not together, married, or why would I do that? That's a totally different person. And if you have two children by two different men, even though you may think they're different, they're the same in that you had children by two men that weren't married to you. You had children by two women that you weren't married to. Or you're divorced, and now are you dating someone that's very similar to the person that you're separated from? You have to ask yourself that question. I was talking to a guy who's dating a woman who's divorced. And I said to him, you have to figure out and ascertain, did her husband leave her, or did her husband leave the situation? Because it's possible for a guy to be in a relationship with a woman, they have two children together, and then the situation itself, because a woman with two children is different than a woman with no children. And it's not even fair to compare a woman with two children to a woman with no children. It's not fair. There are guys in their immaturity, they're leaving the situation. They're leaving the responsibility of family. They're leaving, and they've gotten their head turned by some single chick who has no responsibilities. And, it's just more fun. Well, what you're rejecting is you're rejecting growth and maturity in life. You're rejecting the situation more than you're rejecting the person. Did he leave you, sweetheart, or did he leave the situation? That's the question. If you're married to somebody, you're in a relationship with a guy, and you have two kids with him, and he leaves you for a woman with three kids, that means he left you. He didn't leave the situation. He left you. You have to figure out, did he leave her, or did he leave the situation? Maybe it wasn't the situation. Maybe it was the way she dealt with the situation. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was the situation itself. That's an important thing to figure out. You have to ascertain that. And all of that stuff has to be a factor in your mind when you're single again and dating again. Because the word says that like a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool returns to its folly. And dogs will barf something up and eat it again. Think about that. The insanity of something making you sick. Imagine if you felt like you're going to throw up, and you said, quick, hand me that Tupperware bowl. Would you barf into a Tupperware bowl, put a top on, a lid on it, stick it in the refrigerator for later, take it out, stick it in the microwave, heat it all up, it's all bubbling? That's what you're doing when you date the exact same kind of woman again. That's what you're doing when you're dating the exact same kind of guy again. You need to examine your patterns, examine what you like and why you like that. Because you don't want to make the same mistake twice, or a third time, or a fourth time, or a fifth time. That's a good question.
There's a study that says Christians only read their Bibles when they come to church. On average, they come to church once a month. How do you encourage your congregation, friends, and family to study the Word daily?
I think that it's not just about reading the Bible, and I think certainly reading the Bible, but I think that people in America, African Americans in particular, I don't know how much we read at all. I think reading itself has become something that we don't do as much. And I don't necessarily think that that's just about us lacking in education. I think that that has to do with other mediums of communication. I know that we can try to quantify that and qualify that by, deciding, oh, America's less educated because they don't read as much. And I think that reading does exercise your brain in a way. But there are a lot of ways for you to gain information and knowledge. And, if you've seen a really good documentary, if you watch the History Channel, you can learn some stuff about World War II watching the History Channel if you watch a really good documentary. And they'll give you some good facts. They'll give you some good information that's very similar to if you read it. So I try not to be overly critical about our reading or lack thereof. As someone who does write books, I've got 2 books right now that I've written that I'm about to release. One of them, it's a book on success. It's called More. Since I wrote the book myself, I definitely have had agents or publishers who are kind of like, people ain't gonna read this book. It's a souvenir. They want to come and buy something as a result of hearing you. And I'm like, the devil's a liar. I wrote the book for people to read it. I think when it comes to reading the Bible, we have certainly emphasized Bible reading. We did a series last year, a couple years ago, called Hide the Word, and we were just trying to get everybody to read the Bible consistently, trying to suggest devotional studies for people to read the Bible. Our youth pastor and our youth ministry did a very serious, consistent thing about trying to get all of our teenagers to consistently read. And I see my children studying the Bible devotionally, kind of have a little notebook and taking a time to read a scripture and observing and writing what they saw and how it impacted them, how they're going to apply it to their lives. I think there is a resurgence in, hey, let's read the Bible. At the same time, when people come to World Overcomers, I'm going to make them read the Bible. And then I'm going to present a concept to them from the Bible. And I don't know if I'm going to judge them as lacking if that's the only time they read it. It would be good for them to read the Bible more, but I think them reading it once a week and then hearing it expounded upon once a week or twice a week is better than them never getting it at all. And I think that we have to be careful with kind of how we quantify any of these kind of judgments, because some of the most evil people I know can quote scripture. There's people in the KKK that can quote scripture to you. Read their Bible every day. They read their passages that subjugate people. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't read the Bible every day, but I'm just saying that I don't know if I'd be like, well, This person reads their Bible every day, so they're better than this person who reads their Bible twice a week. Let's see what's the fruit of their life, and let's see. The Pharisees and the Sadducees knew the Bible coming and going, knew the law coming and going. And Jesus was like, yeah, but it's not in your heart. So I am trying to encourage my people to read the Bible, but I don't want it to become a work. I want them to read the Bible because it's edifying and it's food for their spirit. It builds them up. But if they're like, oh, yeah, well, I go on this Bible app every day and my cell phone reads a scripture to me and I read a verse a day and my phone reads it to me, I'm not going to be like, no, you need to get an actual physical Bible from the King James Version with the words of Jesus in red. And you need to turn and put a marker and you need to highlight. I mean, I feel like, hey, you're getting a verse a day, you're reading a scripture a day, your phone pops up and gives you the verse for the day, and you read that, and you're like, oh man, that's awesome, and then it's being read to you. I think getting the word, hiding the word in your heart is the most important thing.
My husband feels jealous of the kids, like he wants all the attention, but it's not possible with young kids. How do I make him feel like a priority without sacrificing taking good care of the kids?
I think that, your husband needs to be somewhere where he can hear. This is a part of the challenge of marriage and family today, is that we don't do it in community. I've said this before, marriage is a communal event. It's a lot easier to do in a community full of people that are doing it. It's one of the reasons why the enemy is attacking it so much, because he does not want anybody doing it, because the fewer people that do it, the harder it is to do. If you're living in a tribe or in a town or in a community where 80 to 90% of the people are married and you're a guy, you're not getting as much attention from your wife because you got a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old kid, then you're going to have camaraderie with other guys that are in the exact same situation, or older guys who are going to say, dude, it's okay. Like if I was to talk to that dude, I would say, dude, I feel you. I totally get it. There was a period of time where I had a 5-year-old daughter and triplet boys, okay? So what kind of attention was I getting? None. I wasn't getting any attention at all. And if you had asked me at that time, was I happy in my marriage, it wouldn't have been fair for me to just judge that moment as to whether or not I was happy. I would have had to look at the whole marriage and all of the relationship and then determine, okay, during this kind of next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, things are going to be tough till these little dudes go to school. And even now, there's still stuff that's happening. My boys are 18 now, and there's still times when I'm like, these boys are almost gone. There's a certain amount of attention, sure, that you're going to gain. So I think community would help, and I think that that's something that's missing. I don't know if you should bear the whole brunt of trying to help him feel, because he has to understand, once again, like I just finished saying about 5 minutes ago, that it's the situation. It's not necessarily you. At the same time, I think your attitude about it does go a long way. I think if you have an attitude that's like, look, you just have to get yourself together because I got these babies around here, don't know what anybody think about it. If your attitude is, hey, I know it's hard, babe, listen, I feel it, and I miss you too. I wish I could lay around and roll around with you too, and he doesn't feel like you have totally forgotten him, like you ain't thinking about him at all, and he needs to suck it up because these are your kids. I think your attitude about it goes a long way towards helping him feel like whether or not you're a priority. He may know he's not a priority, but the question is, do you know it? Do you realize that he's not a priority right now? And do you realize that that's not really healthy to your long-term relationship? As long as you acknowledge that, then he may be okay. As long as you're like, I know, I'm trying to tell you, and believe me, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, boo-boo. If you say to him, look, dude, let me tell you something. I'm trying to get these little children out of this room as fast as I possibly can. I read What to Expect the First Year. They said by 5 months, that baby should be in their own room. It is 4 months and 10 days. Let me tell you something. The day they turn 5 months, the crib is set up. They're going in there. You want to put a lock on this door? You got it. You want to look at a 2-year-old who knocks on the door like they're crazy? Amen. When my 2-year-olds knocked on my door, I opened up the door like, yes, can I help you? Do what? I need some water. You better get your little aspirin back in that bed because it is night time. It is 9:30. You are not supposed to be up. And if you're there like, oh, let him sleep with us, it's my baby, then that's your problem. If you are totally content in that child developing and taking the steps they need to take to be healthy and normal, if you are rocking an 18-month-old baby to sleep at night, you don't know what you're doing. His issues may be your lack of parenting skills and not necessarily just this situation. Understand that a 2-year-old child should be asleep at a certain time in their room. And if they're up, then you don't know what you're doing. If you are putting those kids to bed now if you got a 4-month-old baby, a 3-month-old baby, I get you, baby, but you got to get that kid on a schedule and you got to get that kid going to bed at a certain time. And there's no way a child that's 1 year old that's eating food shouldn't be able to sleep all night. If they're getting up in the middle of the night, it's because you're going in there. Put them in their room, close the door, turn your monitor off. They won't die. Night, if you put your kids to bed at 8:30 every night, then you ought to have a couple of hours for him. Man, you ought to be okay. He ought to be all right because he's like, yeah, I'm just waiting for 8:30. And you should be doing that too. You should be like, oh, okay, 7:20, time to get ready for bed, pajamas. I remember my mama trying to get us to put pajamas on at 6:30. It's time to get ready for bed. I remember looking at the clock being like, it's 6:30. And my mother was like, I didn't say go to bed. I said get ready for bed. And I'm just like, I know, but I'm 5. I don't want to have pajamas on at 6:20. Okay? And then somehow she snuck us into our rooms. It was a riot. It's like our bedtime's not till 8. But somehow I'm in my room reading at 7:40. It's just, what happened to that? What happened to you having a time to go to bed? What happened to that? What happened to the parents that said, yeah, 8 o'clock, good night. 8:30, good night. You need at least, if you're under the age of 15, you need at least 10 hours of sleep. Just to develop, just to grow, just for your brain to develop properly. You got a kid up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. You don't know what you're doing. And so that may be the issue. You put them kids to bed at 8. Start now. 8:30. You got a 7-month-old, 8-month-old, 9-month-old that's still on just liquids. I get it. Once that baby's 15 pounds, though, he ought to be able to sleep 6 hours. And if you're getting up and nursing him at 2 a.m., and he's 7 months old, you just don't know what you're doing. Give that little dude some water for a week, and I bet you he won't wake up. So, I think that all of those things are a part of it. You need a good mentor of a good mama who knows what to do with children. I think children have a place. Anybody remember when they said, know your place? I think children have a place. I think children need to be kept in their place. I think children need to be put in their place. I think anybody that calls children the boss are fools because they're not the boss. They're not in charge. This is your life. This is your marriage. This is your home. This is your stuff. This is your money. This is your car. That is your room. One of my sons slammed the door. I'm like, dude, don't slam my door. This is my room. This ain't your room. You ain't paying not a thing in this house. This is my room. This is my door. Don't slam my door. What are you talking about? This is my house. Know your place. You put them little rascals in their place, and you might actually have some time for your man before they wreck your marriage, because they will wreck your marriage if you let them. Children are awesome, but they are a storm that you must survive. The process of having children is a glue. It does hold you together. Children themselves, they're a glue that hold you together. But the process of having children is very detrimental to a romantic marital relationship. As long as you understand that, if all of a sudden we have a hurricane tomorrow, you know you're going to have to tape your windows and you're going to have to board stuff up. When they get ready to have a hurricane down in Wilmington, they have to prepare. When you find out you're pregnant, you got to start taping up your windows and boarding up your doors because you're about to have a 18-year storm that's going to come raging through there. And as long as you understand that, and you are bailing water out the basement, and you put your sump pumps down there, and understand you don't spend enough time together, you don't talk to each other enough, you need to go on vacations without them. You better call your mama. If you and your mama don't get along, make up. Mama, I miss you. I need you in my life. If for nothing else, to help with D. Donjay over here. And you need to be able to drop that little dude off with your mama, and you and your man take a weekend and go to the Biltmore and walk through the mansion and hold his hand and put on something cute and prioritize it. Don't lose your man over your children. And I'll say one last thing and I'll shut up. Men are more connected. It's horrible, but men are more connected to the woman than they are to the kids. It's just the facts. It's just the facts. If you're watching me and your baby's father doesn't have anything to do with the children, it may not just be because he's a bad guy. It may be because he can't stand you. Can't stand you. That's why a man will raise someone else's children. Because if he feels right about you, he's cool with your kids. He's all right with them. But if he don't like you, then he don't care about the kids really. He's more connected to the ground than he is to the seed he produces. So the last thing you want to ever happen to you is for your man to stop liking you. Ooh, Lord, I done gone all off on tangent now. Yeah, you don't want your man to stop liking you. Love is great, but you want your man to like you. If your man says to you, this little boy is spoiled. This little boy is spoiled. If your man says that to you, this little boy is spoiled. And he's 4, and you come back with, no, he's not. If your man says, all right, okay, and shuts down, that means that you are now on a path of him not liking you. You're in trouble. You're on a path of him not liking you. Because if a man doesn't like you, he won't want to spend time with you. He won't want to take you nowhere. He won't want to go out with you. And when he comes into maturity, he will not sleep with you. Now, a young guy who's just got virility and testosterone pumping through him every 5 seconds, and he's 28 years old, 27 years old, 31 years old, he will sleep with you if he don't like you. But somebody 50 will not sleep with you. If somebody 44 will not sleep with you if they don't like you. They don't care. So right now, if you have a man, you're watching this and you have a man, you don't need to be asking yourself, does my man love me? That's not the question. You need to be asking the question, does my man like me? Does he like me? Because if he don't like you, in 2019, if he don't like you, he will not stay with you. Ooh, God, well, that was, help us, Holy Ghost. We almost need to do something with that thing where instead of it counting down, it needs to count up. But anyway, okay, go ahead.
How do you separate yourself completely from an ex who is now dating your cousin? We dated for 8 years.
A date that's an ex that's dating your cousin, I mean, that's just gangster. That's just gangster. I mean, I'm sorry. That's gangster. It's gangster. Oh, it's fair and love and war, but that's gangster. I think it's harder to separate yourself from them if you have children with them. I think it's even harder to extricate yourself from them if you had an intimate physical relationship with them. That's why I try to say to people, listen, try to be chaste. I think it's a challenge. I think the greatest way for you to move on is for you to move on. Forgive them and stop reading their news. You're going to have to ignore them. You got to stop following them online and, so you can take my cousin in King's Dominion, but you can't take me. You just need to not know. Stop watching. Stop looking at them. Don't ask about them. If your cousin is telling you, say to your cousin, dude, girl, I don't want to hear about that. Listen, I'm sorry, I don't want. But what's more is, you move on, be your best you, pray and believe God that God has something better for you, because when God has something better and when God blesses you, you don't care. You care less. You care less. And it is the answer. It's the reason why the Joseph story is there. For anybody that's dealing with any issue with their family, anyone that has been betrayed, anyone that has been been abused, anyone that has been, look right at Joseph. Beaten, thrown into a hole, threatened to kill him. So imagine you're in a pit, listening to your brothers talking about killing you. People want to kill you in your life. And then finally somebody says, no, let's not kill him. And, your oldest is like, let's throw him in the pit, because he's just like, what the? Meaning, let's throw him in the pit and leave him there. Because he thought, I'll come back later and take the boy out. Can't kill our own blood. Then some slavers come by and they pull you up and sell you. You think he didn't say anything? You think he just was quiet the whole time? You think he wasn't like, come on, dudes, I'm sorry, don't sell me. Don't sell me into slavery. What are you talking about? My father's rich. How are you going to sell me into being a slave? That is gangster. Why was Joseph able to forgive them? Because he was so blessed. So I think the greater your blessing, the easier it is for you to forgive. And you should practice forgiveness anyway, but it's harder to forgive when you're struggling, when you're broke, when you're alone. You're probably more upset if you're alone and lonely. Don't be alone. Don't be lonely. Get some friends. Join your church. Be a part of the ministry. Jump into the care ministry or whatever your ministry is at your church. Join a choir. Join the youth prison team. Go out with people. Go serve. Give your life to something besides just your own needs. Come home after work and after serving at the thing, tired, going to sleep. You ain't got time to think about how ain't nobody trying to talk to you. You won't even be thinking about your cousin and this person. So that you can be healthy. Be the best you can be. Strive to be the best you can be. Who's that, Arsenio? Strive to be the best you can be. The more blessed you are, the easier it is to forgive. That's why I'm praying for your blessing. That's why we have the show. That's why we're doing Canaan right now here at World Overcomers. Because I know that the more blessed you are, God will cause you to forget because you're doubly blessed.
I have a friend who has a not-so-great husband. Is my role as a friend to sympathize with her or tell her how I really feel about her husband? What is the best approach? Is it unsaved to tell her to leave him?
Oh, gosh. I mean, that's a tough question. I think it's easier for you to give your friend advice about her husband if you have one. It's harder if you don't have one. If you have one, it's easier. If you have a good one, it's easier. If you don't, I think this question, it doesn't just apply to this, it applies to all friendships. I think that the most difficult relationships to maintain are across relationships. Up relationships are easy because you're trying to give honor where it's due and respect, that's easy. Down relationships are easy because this person's on a lower level than you. This is your child. Of course you have a responsibility to tell your 6-year-old the truth. But your friend is a different story altogether, and you have to be kind of careful about not overstepping and not crossing lines, especially about somebody that they love. I think that you have to, believe me, if someone has a husband that's not that great, they know. I don't think they need you to tell them that as a revelation. I don't think they need that. I don't know. Are you trying to tell them truth in love, or are you trying to tell them truth because it needs to be said? It just needs to be said. That is a dog. Believe me. She's not a fool. And she is a fool. Then why are you her friend? Maybe y'all are both fools. No, if her husband's not that great, she knows. Now, if he is out there cheating and balling and running around and got all this, and she doesn't know, then you do have an obligation to tell her that. Because her life is at stake. Her life is at stake. But you better have some hard evidence, and you better have some real proof. It can't be speculation. It can't be what you heard. You have to know. And then you're saying it to her in love. You can't say it to her in hate against him. I just can't stand him. The passage there in Ephesians chapter 4 that I quote it all the time here at World Overcomers. Verse 11, it was he, Jesus, who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors and teachers, basically for the body to be built up, okay? Till we all reach unity in the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of God. Then we won't be babies. Then it gets down to a verse where it says, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into him. So we have to speak the truth in love, because the spirit with which you speak something is just as powerful as the words. So if in your heart you can't stand him, you can't stand your best friend's man, you can't stand him, you hate him. If that is in your heart, when you communicate truth to your friend, then although you may not say that you can't stand him, but the words you speak, they are spirit and they are life. And so that truth, that spirit is going to be mixed in there. Whereas if you genuinely just love her, if you're just like, girl, I just love you, you are my friend, you're just the greatest person. And sweetheart, that dude is just, it is well known. He's got 3 different women. Somebody saw him coming out of somebody's house. And I just love you. I just don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you. In that love for them, you may be able to communicate truth to them that is hard to hear. But you can't communicate truth to them if that you're kind of a little mad at them anyway because they're so stupid. That's going to come through. You have to speak the truth in love. And you also may have to, you may share a little of it, and if they get very defensive, you may just say, okay, I hear you, kid. All right. You don't know him like I know him. Okay, you're right. That's true. All right. I don't want to get into it, but I love you. I just care for you, so it's okay. No worries. Because in the fullness of time, they may, believe me, they will come to you in time and say, you was right. And you'll just be, and you don't need to be like, I told you. I did not tell you that 8 years ago. What did I say 8 years ago? What did I say 8 years ago? You should listen to me. No, see, now that's your pride, and that's your, no. You need to be like, sweetheart, I thought this, I suspected it. I'm so sorry. Let's figure out what we're going to do together, because I care about you. I care about you more than I care about being right.
Next question. Should girls ask guys out?
Should girls ask guys out? Woo! That is a very good question. Let me just say this. As a guy, asking a woman out that you don't know how she feels about you is a risky endeavor. It's kind of something that's been a part of our culture to some extent. It's almost like that's when you know you got game. When you see somebody across the room and you're like, yo, I'm getting ready to go talk to this person, and you have no inkling or no knowledge whatsoever of how that person feels about you. Now it's kind of different if you're looking at somebody across the room and she's looking at you back and she smiles and you're like, yeah, this girl's feeling me. Now you can roll over there. It's very different if your sister or your boy comes up and is like, yo, my boys, that girl, man, dude, that girl likes you, right? Now you got a little bit of information, so now you're going over there, or you saw somebody and now you found them on Instagram or whatever, you DM'd them and you're kind of like, yo, I just thought we can get to know each other a little bit. And then their response is going to be very clear to you. All of those things are things that guys have to navigate. So if you are going to ask a guy out, then just know that the hardest of all those things to do is somebody that you don't know nothing about how they feel about you. You have not caught their eye. You don't see them looking at you. You don't see them staring you down. I think it's just as easily if you're in church or staring across the room or at a party or at an event and a guy is looking at you and you smile and I don't think there's anything wrong with you walking over and saying, hi, my name is Sonia. And if he's just like, hi. Now you got an idea of, does this dude have game? What are you trying to do? You trying to be in control the whole time? And if he's kind of like, yeah, I was just about to come over there and say, what's up? Now you showed yourself to be friendly. And I know today guys are just have no game because women are so aggressive that dudes barely have any game anymore. But if he's just like, oh, yeah, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And if he doesn't say, hey, let's get some coffee or, I would like to get to know you better. And yeah, let's talk. I think if you have to do too much, you need to kind of ask yourself, so what are you going to be in charge of the whole thing? What are you going to tell him everything to do? If you do that, now what? You're going to tell him when to pick you up? You're going to tell him when to take you to dinner? You're going to tell him where to take you? You're going to tell him, okay, it's been 9 months, so it's time for you to ask me to marry you now, and let me tell you what kind of ring I want. Don't you want anyone with any kind of, don't you want a man? You just want a child? Don't you want a man? You want a little boy? You might think you want one, but you're going to get tired of him. You're going to get tired of him. I could see kind of smiling, but if I was a woman and I'm not, and a dude was looking at me and I smiled back, and he didn't come over and say hi, I'd be like, think you're whack. You saw me smile at you? What do you want me to do? Come over there? I think there are women who straight roll on dudes who have showed no interest in them at all. And understand that is annoying just like it's annoying to you. Just like it's annoying to you. My wife is always coming home talking about some frog who tried to pick her up. And I'm always just like, of course, I want to know. I'm like, oh, really, what'd he say? Because I think it's funny. But she's a little bit insulted. Like, what, well, how did he think? I was in an Atlanta airport maybe a couple months ago. I'm in the airport in Atlanta by myself. And I'm kind of walking through. And like this, there was a group of women that was checking me out. The main one that was looking at me had like an oxygen tube in her nose. And I kind of was like, if you could get me, what do you think you could? Do I look like somebody that is going, you need oxygen to walk through the airport. What do you think's going to happen? What are you trying to say? I think people with an oxygen tank need to be looking at people with oxygen tanks. So you both, okay. Are you good? What do you mean you're looking at me? So I think that you have to be careful about that. I think you have to, just because you like a guy, does he like you? If you like dudes who are in shape, girl, you better be in shape. I just like him because he always has his hair cut. Then you better always have your hair done then. Because a guy who always gets his hair cut wants to be with somebody who's sharp. I just love the way he dresses. Then you better dress. Because a man who is meticulous about how he dresses is going to be meticulous about how you dress, because you are going to be an accessory in his overall look. If a dude's walking in and people be like, dang, man, you see that dude right there in them shoes? If a dude has thought about his shoes, then he's thinking about the woman that is with him. He's not going to have on banging shoes and you're in a dress barn dress. That's not going to work. So you have to think, is he interested in you? And if he's not, then can you become what the guy you like is interested in? And vice versa. Vice versa. Because if you're going to get a certain kind of woman, which to me is the whole point of it, is if you're going to get a certain kind of woman, then you got to be a certain kind of cat. That's why I say to guys, the engagement ring is reflected. It's a reflection of you. You want to put a good ring on your woman because you want people to see it and be like, oh my God, what does he do? Because it's a reflection of you. The guy, not the woman. It's about the guy. The engagement ring's about the guy. He's flexing. He's saying, yeah, check me out. Look at what I can do. And I think it takes a certain kind of guy to get a certain kind of woman. And to me, that challenge of getting a really great woman who is smart and thoughtful and educated and together and attractive, anybody can get a skeezer. Anybody can get an easy woman. Can you get a woman that is kind of like, yeah, what do you do? Is this your car? What's your plan? Oh, see, that's your problem. You all stuck up. Oh, you see, you just want, oh, so what are you trying to say? You just want somebody, you got a plan? Yeah, that's what I want. And a guy that tries to devalue you, to make you less than what you're worth, is not a guy you want to be around. I think I've said this on this show. I think so. I only fly first class. There was a period of time when I didn't fly first class. I remember walking through first class and going into coach and looking at people in first class and thinking, why would they pay $800 for a flight that can cost you $200? I remember thinking that. Here's the thing that's interesting. You ever walk through first class and it's empty? It's very rare. Very rare. So what that means is there were people who were willing to pay to fly first class. And just because you're broke behind can't fly first class does not mean that there are people who will not pay for that. And the airline is not going to give you an $800 seat for $150 just because you don't want to pay the money. Somebody will pay for it. In the exact same way. If you're a first class seat, baby, don't let some dude talk you into giving yourself away for coach prices. Oh, so you think you're all of that? Actually, yes, I do. This seat costs $850. Now, I'm not upgrading you because you don't have enough miles. They never come back to coach and just randomly start putting, all these first class seats are empty. They will leave them seats right empty. You do not want to be devalued. You want a man who's trying to overpay, who treats you so good, you're like, man, this dude treats me. I thought I was just comfort seats. I didn't think I was coach, but I didn't think I was a first class seat. I thought I was a comfort seat, and this dude is treating me like I'm a first class seat. I think a guy should treat a woman and give to a woman more than he receives so that you'll store up credit. So that when you go through your tough spot, you go through your rough moment, and you go through your hard place, and you don't have it to give, you got credit with a woman. A woman will be zipping up credit on you. She'll be like, okay, all right, you forgot my birthday, but the last 10 birthdays you took me to Europe. So yeah, you can't take me to Europe this time. It's okay. You didn't forget my birthday, but so we can't go to Paris. We went to Paris 5 years in a row. We all right? Where you want to go? Wendy's? I'm good. A good woman will give you credit. But if he's taking you to Wednesdays every time, where are we going now? Waffle House. Now where are we going? Cookout. Oh, I'm taking you to Bojangles. Is that all you're worth? No knock on Bojangles, because that is a blessing. But believe in yourself. One more question?
Yes.
Last question?
The last one. The people want to know, how much do you miss cookout right now?
Oh my Lord! Let me tell you something. It's not a good thing. It's not good. I'm appreciative of my sons, but at the same time, I'm annoyed with them for ever introducing me to cookout. It's for like all of you. I've never smoked weed, so I don't know what I'm missing. Thank you, Jesus. Whoever them boys got me that shake, and it's just a problem. But right now it's great motivation. Like I'm working out again really hard because I'm working out so that I can deserve that cookout shake once this consecration's over. And I was sweating yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, once I'm back, how many am I going to allow myself to have? Maybe once a month I'll go and get a shake. I can't have one every day. I can't have one every week. Y'all will see me season 3. I'll be having 2 seats. I'll definitely have to fly first class then. But I do miss cookout. I just miss the shakes though. Now when I went in there before the consecration and I saw somebody eating a hot dog, somebody was like, "Oh, the hot dogs are good." So I may try something. I may try a hot dog. The burger was okay. But I do miss cookout, and it's a blessing. And I talk about cookout too much. Stop asking me questions about cookout. I talk about it too much. All right. So this was a good season of Third Degree. Glad we're here. Trust you got some truth, some information. Share it. Let people know. That I dropped some knowledge today. All of these shows are, on the website, or, if you missed it, you can check it out. When's the next season starting, Pastor Andy? I don't know. We'll let you know. Stay awake. Stay woke. Peace out.